Hey everyone, and welcome to Cat Scratch Kitchen. Today I'm going to share with you my tried and true recipe for freezer pizza dough. This dough is super easy to make and it's perfect for a quick and easy weeknight meal. I've been making this dough for years now and it's always a hit with my family and friends. It's also great for meal prepping as you can make a batch of dough and freeze it for up to 3 months. So grab your apron and let's get started. All right, for our pizza dough, we just need 4 ingredients. They're ingredients that you probably have at home already. Start out with flour. I'm using just all-purpose flour. If you want to use bread flour, you can, but it's not really necessary. And I need 390 grams. Now, I like to weigh it out, but if you don't want to weigh it out or you don't have a scale, it's about 2 3/4 cups. Now, this recipe will make enough dough for 2 12-inch pizzas. There we go, we've got our 390 grams, or 2 3/4 cups. Next, yeast. I keep my yeast in a jar like this so I can store it in the freezer. It stays active a lot longer. I need 2½ teaspoons of yeast. Now it can be instant yeast or regular yeast. For this, it really doesn't matter. Because you know, normally when you make yeasted pizza dough, you have all that time waiting for it to rise and then shape. This one takes that step out, so it's a whole lot easier and more convenient. Now I'm just going to cover up my yeast so that it doesn't mix with my salt. Just because I don't know if it's actually true or not, but I've heard that salt impedes the growth of yeast. Now I just need 2 teaspoons of plain salt. You can use kosher salt or sea salt if you desire, it's not necessary. Now this, I'm going to place in my food processor. This is part of what makes this pizza dough so easy, is the fact that your food processor is going to take care of the kneading part for you. I'm just going to add it all in here. Try not to make a mess. And just give it a quick whirl to mix. Now, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil, or olive oil. I've even made it with canola oil frequently. It's still just as good. And as I let my food processor run, I'm just going to drizzle it in. Now I need about 1 cup of warm water. Now with the water, I'm going to drizzle it in just like I did the oil. And so do it slowly so I can see what's happening with the dough as I do it. You want the dough to come to a ball, but you don't want it so moist that it becomes really sticky. Okay, now you can see I have maybe 1/8 cup left. So I'm going to check my dough. And to me, this feels about perfect. It's not too sticky. I'm going to let the food processor go ahead and knead it for me now. And so I'm going to let my food processor run for about 3 minutes. Now it's going to warm up. Make sure you've got a good food processor. If it gets too warm for you, turn it off, let it cool, and then turn it back on and let it go again. I'm going to check it again because I have some small pieces. Okay, it's good. I just want to make sure those small pieces weren't too dry, the reason they weren't collecting in that ball. Because if they were, then I'd add a little bit more of my water, but they're fine. Okay, now we're good. Now I'm going to push my food processor aside and I'm going to put down some plastic wrap. Now when I make this recipe, a lot of times as it's kneading, I'll go ahead and get the flour ready for another batch. and just continue like that, sort of on an assembly line, and you end up with maybe 10 balls of dough that you can put in your freezer. And you've probably spent half hour in the kitchen. Okay, now I'm going to take out my dough. Be careful on your blade. And I didn't mention it, but we are using just a regular S blade on this. I'm just going to push it together a little bit. You can see how nice and pliable the dough is. It doesn't stick to me at all, and it feels fantastic. It's really soft, really nice dough. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to spread it out to about a 6 by 9 rectangle, just roughly. It's not rocket science. You don't have to be exact with this part. Now just take your fingers and kind of dimple it. Like if you've ever made focaccia, you do the same thing on the top of your focaccia. It's the same sort of thing. Just dimple it a little bit. Now I'm going to just fold it together like an envelope. One side over, a third of the way, and then the other side over. And this is the only waiting period you have for this dough as far as rising or anything else. I'm going to wrap it up in this plastic wrap, and I'm going to let it sit for 20 minutes. Just like that. Okay, you can see under my lights, of course, in that 20 minutes, we've had a lot of yeast activity, so the yeast is good. So all I'm going to do now is unwrap it. And I'm going to use this piece of plastic wrap again. Just going to flatten it out a little bit and just divide it in half. Now if you want to get real precise, you can go ahead and weigh it. I don't usually, I just kind of eyeball it and see how it feels. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and I'm going to just roll each piece into a nice ball. Then I'm going to get one more piece of plastic wrap, put one ball in there, and wrap it up nice and tight. And then I like to, because it's got a little residual warmth to it, I like to go ahead and put it in a Ziploc bag as well before I put it in the freezer. Just so that if it does start to rise a little bit, it doesn't just bust out of that plastic and get dry and hard where it's been exposed to the air. Just like that. Okay, now you can use it right away, but your pizza will taste just a little bit bready, more so than yeasty. When it's in the freezer, that yeast is still active, so it's kind of not fermenting, but it's actually improving the yeast. It's still proofing in the freezer. So it's a lot better after it's been frozen. Now once you have them packaged up, you can go ahead and put them in the freezer for up to 3 months. When you're ready to use one, take it out of the freezer, let it sit on your kitchen counter for about 30 minutes, maybe 35, until it starts to thaw a little bit. Then you're going to take it out of the plastic wrap, spread it out, stretch it as you go around the edges, and put it in your pan. Whether you have a round pan or you're putting it in a rectangular tray, either way. They'll make about a 12-inch round pizza. If you know you're going to be making pizza in the morning, go ahead and take it out of your freezer, put it in your fridge, and let it stay in your fridge all day to thaw. I love sharing my favorite recipes with you, and this tried and true freezable pizza dough is one of my go-tos. I hope you enjoyed watching me make it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if you try the recipe. As always, the recipe is just below the like button, as well as a link so that you can print it out. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to CSK and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on more delicious recipes and cooking tips. And until next time, have fun in the kitchen.